Listen, I want to welcome you to the Business Mastering Aviation webinar. And this is really part of our Digital Transformation Knowledge series. And I want to tell you that we exist to help companies to create a new future through digital transformation. And you might be asking yourself, well, what does digital transformation even mean? Well, that's really why we're having these webinars, and we're going to cover that in the webinar today. So again, we're really very excited about being here today, and we're going to do a little bit to introduce ourselves in a minute. But again, my name is Mark Schultz, and this is Larry Little.
Hi.
Yep, we're really happy to be here today, and we are excited to see such a really big crowd, really on the webinar. And it's pretty exciting that we find ourselves with people from all around the world on this webinar right now. Hey, let me tell you, is it signed up right now here? We're looking at the webinar, and we have people in Europe, we have people in Latin America, we have people in North America, we have people in APAC. And hey, for those of you that are in Europe right now, I wanted to thank you because we really designed this webinar for the people that are in the APAC region. Last week we did one at a different time, but this one was really designed for the people that are in the Asia Pacific region. So right now it's morning and mid-morning to early afternoon in that region. And so we wanted to thank you for jumping in and participating. But according to the webinar right now, it looks like we have people on 5 continents on this webinar. So we are really excited for you to have joined us here today, and we welcome you to being part of this webinar with us. So we're going to jump right in. So listen, digital transformation defined. So digital transformation is really a rethinking of how the company is made up of people, processes, and technology, and how that will change the performance of a business. And I want to put extra special emphasis on changing the performance of a business, because it's really all about the business is what it's really all about. And Larry and I have been involved in a lot of different businesses in the past, and we've seen digital transformation. And Larry, you've seen digital transformation, and what are your thoughts on it focused on the business, being focused on the business instead of technology?
Well, Mark, I think for me, walking into a maintenance hangar and seeing no paper in the whole hangar really struck me what digital transformation is all about. And to think that you could maintain an airplane with no paper and it be more safe and more efficient just was amazing to see. And just like, it kind of just struck me of what the power, the power of a digital transformation.
Yeah,
it is real in today's world.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so what we want to do is we want to focus today on rethinking how the company, which is made up of people, processes, and technology, will change the whole performance of a business, and how it is that performance actually of the business will affect the outcome and the success of that business. Hey, I want to start out by saying this, is that, I know that in the past that, Larry and I have been involved with this for, it's 20, 30, 40 years. And over the past 20 years, I know that, you may have tried and failed in the past, and there were reasons for this. And, digital transformation had a lot of obstacles in the past. And so I just want to tell you that it's really not your fault, is that it's really only, in the last few years that all the factors have come together which make it possible for us to really have real true digital transformation. And there were immovable forces that were really fighting against you, and they were coming in from the outside. And those external forces, really were preventing you and many people from being able to move forward and really do digital transformation. And so even though you might have tried things and they may not have worked out exactly the way that you planned in the past, this really is a new opportunity and a time in history where it's possible for you to be able to do this, all right? And, some of you might be sitting there and you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't know, I've tried it before and it may or may not be successful. And I just want to tell you, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way, all right? And sometimes, we feel like we've tried things and maybe it didn't work out exactly the way we wanted it, or the return on investment wasn't what we wanted. But, it's okay. It's okay to move forward.
And, Mark, I think you talked about it a little bit. We're at a time now where all these elements can come together to really create substantial efficiencies in the business. I can remember 10 years ago doing an online demo of a software product, and about halfway through the demonstration, the internet failed, and we were pretty much kicked out of the office at that point.
So that wasn't your fault?
That was not my fault.
It wasn't. The internet went down. So it was unreliable internet, unreliable technology.
Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
It was unreliable technology. And then there was a belief by the leader that, hey, this stuff is
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
But we've gotten past that. The internet works pretty much
Yeah.
works well worldwide. Everyone has an iPad now,
Yep.
and so all these factors have come together so people understand a little bit better of the power and the value of a digital transformation.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I want to say is that, hey, listen, you've all had people that have like been doubters and they said, you're not going to be successful, or maybe you had a coworker that didn't believe in what you're doing and they were an obstacle, or maybe you had a boss which didn't believe in what you were doing and they were an obstacle, or maybe the regulators didn't understand, or maybe you had investors in your company, or all these different things. And and that doesn't matter anymore, because right now we're in a time in history where it's possible really for you to do this. And I want to encourage you that you can be successful in doing this. And so we are going to talk about the success of a business and how to completely change and transform a business, how to rethink what you're doing, and to be successful by focusing on people, process, and technology, and create a performance of a business that's unlike anything that we've seen before.
Hey, Mark, before we get too far down the road, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit this time, and I will as well, just so people kind of know who we are.
Yeah, that would really be awesome. Let's do that. Okay. So my name is Mark Schultz, and there's a lot of people on this webinar right now, and you may or may not know me. I see some names I recognize, and I see names that I don't recognize. But I, like Larry, I have almost 40 years in the industry, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on that in the past. And I am absolutely passionate about digital and digital transformation, and I'm going to tell you why, kind of when we get to that. And my focus has been, how can I help people in aviation and digital transformation? That's really what I'm all about, So Larry, what's kind of your story? What's your background?
So, like you, Mark, I've been in the aerospace industry for a long time, 40 years in the aerospace industry. But I think the last 15 really been deeply engaged in helping airlines make that transformation, that digital transformation, from the paperless or archaic systems that they were in, to now being fully, digital transformed, I guess.
Digitally transformed. We call that digitalization now. So there's a new word, right? And it's digitalization. You can't even say that one. It's
but anyway, for the past 15 years, I've been involved in this space, and it's been really exciting to watch the change that people have embraced.
Yeah, it's excellent. All right. Okay. Well, listen, I want to talk a little bit about the goals of this webinar. Because you might be asking yourself is it what should I really expect from this webinar? Am I in the right spot? And let's talk about that for a minute. All right. So what to expect from this webinar that you're going to be on right now? Why would you be here if you're not looking for answers? Okay. Is that everybody's looking for an answer or a solution, and we know you want to increase your status, and it might be to be satisfied with your accomplishments, or it might be to be recognized by your peers. But a lot of times, the majority of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to accomplish our goals, right? And we want to learn, we want to maybe make more money in our job, or we want personal satisfaction of completing a job. But what to expect from this presentation is that you're going to learn. We're going to give you some valuable knowledge and information, today in this webinar, so that you'll be able to learn. All right. And let's talk for a minute about, are you really in the right spot? Is this webinar for you at this point in time? Well, listen, there's a variety of people on this webinar today, all right? We have people from airlines. We have people from software companies in the airline industry. We have people from MROs on here. We have people that are in support industries right now. We have people on the webinar that are in the consulting kind of role in the industry. We have people that work for manufacturers, for OEMs right now. And we believe that the information that's going to be presented in this webinar today will be valuable to each of you, right? And Larry and I have talked about this a lot, is that we're going to have a discussion about the process of digital transformation, all right?
Yep.
And Larry pointed out to me recently that, hey, the process is the same whether you're in any of those roles and responsibilities. It's the same, right?
I think it's really refreshing to see that we have a wide audience, and not just totally focused on airplane maintenance, but we have some software people, and we have just a wide range of people that are interested in this topic today.
We have people that are software providers that are providing flight deck software, that are providing cabin software. A lot of different people on the webinar here today, and it's really exciting to see that. Right?
But you're right, Mark. Yeah. It's the process, and you can be you know, in any one of those businesses, or you can be at any, you know, sort of phase and or level of understanding of digital transformation. But it's the process, I think, that we've talked about and seen at a lot of different companies that we really want to focus on today.
Yep. And the way that I communicate that is that it's really about the journey is what it is, right? So the process might be the same of moving through digital transformation, but everybody's at a different place in the journey, right? And one thing is for absolute certain is that there are no two people that are the same place in a journey, because otherwise everybody would have started at the same place, all right? And I've said this to people before, is that if I have a brand new cell phone and, you know, I that's all I have, I'm now on a new digital transformation journey because I'm learning, you know, from my new cell phone, right?
Right.
You know, I'm on a journey, right? And I could be a company which has a foundation of digital technology in place, and you're at a different place in the journey, all right? Or I could be an OEM, for example, that has a vast IT portfolio, and you're focusing on advanced, you know, analytics or on 3D implementation or, you know, advanced software and putting all that portfolio together. But what I'm trying to say is that the process of transforming a business to create success in that business is the same whether you're in that small, medium, or large company and corporation.
Absolutely.
It's just the journey that you're on and the place on that adoption curve or in that journey.
Absolutely, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Well said.
Yep, very good. So, you know, Larry started out by kind of asking, hey, you know, who are these guys that are on this webinar? And I want to tell you a little bit about myself, because I think it's important that for those of you that don't know me, you know really who I am and a little bit about my background. Is that, you know, I've been over 40 years in aviation. And the reason I say 40 years is because my journey of aviation started really when I was 13 years old. I have to tell you a story of myself. Is that I was 13 years old, and my father, who's 91 right now and lives close by me right now, he took me to Oshkosh, all right, to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And for those of you that are outside of the United States, don't know what Oshkosh is, in Wisconsin, it's the largest fly-in in the world for a period of a week at that point in time. And he brought me to this fly-in, and there's a picture on the webinar here of a Ford Trimotor, and he paid to put me up in the front right seat of that Ford Trimotor. And I was hooked on aviation. We flew up and we went around Oshkosh, around the airport, and landed, and I was absolutely convinced that I needed to learn how to fly at that point in time. It was in my blood is what it was. And then I went back and I started flying, and I earned money, and I started paying for my flying lessons. And I soloed my first airplane, which is also a picture that you see there on the webinar. That's a Cessna 150 Aerobat. And by the way, Larry just got his pilot's license.
I got my pilot's license 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Mark got his pilot license, what, 40 years ago?
Congratulations. Hey,
and I got mine two
every one of us are on a different journey.
Right,
Larry.
exactly.
Every one of us are. But I was 15.
And pretty much that same airplane.
That same airplane. I was 15 and a half years old, and I soloed for the first time, you know, and that was so exciting for me. But let me just tell you,
and I was 63 years old, and I soloed for the first time.
That's fantastic. That's great. But what I'll tell you is this, is that I can remember vividly, just like it was yesterday, the day I climbed out of the airplane for the first time, all right? You know, we gave a little bit of gas, we, you know, primed the airplane, you know, said clear out the window, turned over the starter, and I remember clearly the first time that engine started over, and I just sent chills down my spine. And, you know, I was hooked on aviation again, all right, for the second time, all right? And I went on to get an A&P mechanics license, and I actually got an engineering degree at university, and I got a business degree. But the reason I also have a picture on this slide of an F-18 is because one of the first jobs that I got out of university was working on the F-18 at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Company. And so, you know, I went on to that journey of working for a manufacturer at that point in time. And then I went on to work for an airline. I worked for Northwest Airlines and for, you know, now Delta Airlines. And I managed engineering and technical publications and maintenance training. And so that's, you know, that's a bit about my journey. But, you know, I was really hooked on aviation. It became just something that was so important to me is that I just had to be engaged. I wanted to be involved. Mm-hmm. You know, it was really important to me. So, you know, our journeys are different, Larry, you know, but Larry, you've been at Boeing, you were at Boeing, recently retired. What's your background?
So yeah, I was at Boeing for 40 years and recently retired in February, and really happy to be retired, but really enthusiastic about talking about digital transformation. You know, I think, Mark, you you early on had a passion for aviation and flying. And I think for me, I graduated and moved halfway across the country and started working in the factory at Boeing. And it took me a while to really understand the power of what we were doing and what we were doing for the world and what we were doing to bring people together. Started out working as an engineer in the factory, and then from there did a variety of other engineering tasks, stress analysis, materials development, and at one point just ended up in this digital world and with putting together some people and processes to be able to deliver maintenance information electronically. And that's kind of where I think I really gained this passion of how to change a business and how to really get a lot of value out of a digital transformation. But 40 years at Boeing was fantastic, and again, the last 15 kind of in this IT, if you will, space or digital transformation space.
That's a lot of experience. And Larry, what he didn't say is that were you the product leader of Toolbox at that time, or?
Yeah, I was the product leader of a Boeing product that currently has over 500 customers, a digital transformation product, and had the opportunity to sort of be and kind of invent that product in a small room with about 5 other guys and watch it grow to a product that's used worldwide by over 500.
Every
customers.
Boeing aircraft.
Every
at
Boeing
this point in
aircraft.
time. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
A lot of Airbus aircraft.
It is. Yeah, exactly. A lot of Airbus aircraft.
So I had the opportunity to lead that business and kind of from the first patent to over 500 customers.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. So Larry, I wanted to add one more thing about my journey is that let me mention that I was 17 and a half years old, and when I was 17 and a half years old.
17 or 18, you were 17 and a half.
17 and a half. Okay. I remember it right now. Okay. And that I was heading down the path of wanting to be an aircraft mechanic. Right. And I became aware of, airworthiness directives and airworthiness directives back at that time were only available in paper. Right. And it was frustrating to me because, you couldn't easily access them or you couldn't search them or find them because basically they were only available in paper. And so I actually called up a friend of mine who worked for a big major IT company at the point in time. And I said, hey, if I wanted to put airworthiness directives on a hard drive, I said, how many of them would fit on a hard drive, right? I mean, this is back in the late 1970s that I'm asking this question, right? And his response to me was, well, it depends upon how much text and graphics there is. And I really can't tell you how many will fit on the drive. But the reason I'm pointing that out is that this is a long, long time ago. And I was thinking, how do we optimize, the processes that were out there and how do we turn them into digital processes, right? And so this has been something that I've been working on really for practically a lifetime, right now. Yeah. So let me move on. And just one more thing I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself is that it's not just about sort of the history of what got me excited in aviation. It's also about the background. Larry talked a little bit about his background, and I recently came off of working for helping a big software as an infrastructure company doing software sales and in aviation. And I'm also retired from Boeing 3 years ago. I mentioned to you that I worked at Northwest Airlines and Delta, and I had different jobs there. I was responsible for technical publications and engineering and maintenance training and a number of other things. I also went to work for Jeppesen in the industry, but also I went into doing consulting in the industry. And I've worked with over 200 aviation aerospace companies, over the course of my career. And Larry, I'm sure you've worked with hundreds as well. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Over 40 years, not only airlines and MROs, but regulators as well.
Yeah.
And had the opportunity to sit down across the table with an airline and a regulator to really effectively work through compliance problems, which is kind of what we're seeing today too. Yeah. So those are always really fun, really fun discussions.
Absolutely. And then part of my journey also brought me, in the last 3 years, I looked at my travel statistics, and I actually traveled 1 million miles. And last year it was actually 480,000 miles just last year to observe aviation operations, worldwide. And so I've really gained a perspective of business in aviation and the problems that businesses have and what the opportunities are to be able to implement digital transformation. And personally myself, I've actually started 24 businesses over that time as well. So yeah, I know.
So here I'm a guy that's worked at Boeing for 40 years.
Yeah.
And now teamed up with Mark, who's started 24 businesses.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So,
yeah.
So it's really a good mix.
Well, it really is, because, Larry has really deep experience in the OEM business and in the aircraft, operations business and digital and the things that are required to run those operations. And I have a broader experience across the industry in different types of businesses,
Yep.
Each having their valuable contribution, to the situation. Yeah.
So Mark, I think we should dive into the content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's probably enough about me and you.
One last thing I want to point out on the next slide is that, I've worked with a lot of different companies so far, and, I've helped companies create $50 million in revenue, $70 million in revenue, $2 million in revenue. I've helped companies that have created, we've done webinars and new leads, and I helped one company create 5,000 new customers and helped them create social media exposure. And so all across the industry, the reason I'm bringing these things out is that it's important that we're transforming a business and the business is being successful, right? Right. Digital transformation, just for digital transformation, isn't anything other than putting in a new piece of technology, right? But rethinking of the business and creating success and growing a business is really what it's all about. And so let's jump into the things that create the foundation for that digital transformation, right? So we have categorized this into 3 core secrets of digital transformation. Right. And what we're going to cover over the next 45 minutes or so are these 3 secrets, right? And the 3 secrets are: 1, do you believe? The 4 cornerstones of digital transformation and really creating a vision for the future. And, Larry and I believe through our experience in the industry that these are the core principles which make digital transformation successful.
Mark, you're going to talk more about the 4 cornerstones, but you came at it from one perspective, and I came at it from a totally different perspective, but really came up with the same 4 cornerstones of what it takes to do this. And you really do need to embrace them all. And we've seen companies not embrace them all,
right,
and
achieve less than optimum success.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So,
yep, exactly. So the first thing I want to ask you is that, do you believe? All right. Do you really believe? And you might think, well, why is that such an important component of digital transformation? Well, I'll tell you is that that's the main thing that stops people from moving forward, is they don't believe, right? And if I asked what's stopping you, let me ask you this, is that what's stopping you? Just think about that for a minute. What's stopping you? And what we've found in our journey of helping companies to be successful in digital transformation is that believing is the very first obstacle that stops people from moving forward, is what happens.
No, you're spot on, Mark. And believing and not being afraid to actually go do something. Even it might be wrong, but you have to get started. And getting started, belief is a big part of that.
Yeah, it really is. It is. So I want to tell you just a quick story about my digital transformation journey, and really what really got me hooked on digital transformation. I gave you just a little peek of it, but now I've spent about 20 years trying to achieve the development of IT solutions. Right. So I have 40 years in aviation, but about 20 years has been as a producer or an implementer of IT solutions.
Do you believe?
I do believe.
I think you believe.
I do believe. And what we call it now is we call it digital transformation, right? And I've seen successes and I've seen failures, many of them, and most of them were due to external factors, right? I just, if I look back in history and the things that I've done and what's been successful and what's not been successful, is that there was a point in time where there were no standards that existed. There were no digital standards. I got involved in the ATA industry and we started, setting up standards. And then we found that the data that we needed really didn't exist, or it wasn't clean data that existed, and it was difficult because it wasn't structured. And then we found a point in time where the software wasn't there, and the software wasn't available to be able to produce, the solutions that we needed. And then all of a sudden we reached this obstacle where the internet, wasn't capable. We were using internet, dial-up bandwidths or satellite bandwidths, and it just wasn't capable of producing what it was that we needed. And then we found that hardware was a problem. It wasn't really capable of crunching, data to be able to do what we needed. And then there was a time where we didn't really have mobile devices to be able to provide the digital transformation that we needed, or at least not at an affordable cost, all right? And finally, the thing that really was a roadblock to me was, really the regulators. The regulators had not seen enough success to be able to say, hey, we're comfortable for you to move off of paper and paper, in ink signatures, onto electronic signatures and having fully automated electronic processes. All right. And those were the challenges, that I found myself really facing. And this created a constant ongoing belief that it wasn't possible to achieve, these digital goals. Now, you're probably thinking is that, I just can't get there. There's just too many obstacles that exist today. Well, what I can tell you is that I cannot think of a single factor that exists today, that really prevents people from moving forward. All right. Is that all of these factors have begun to align to the place where it's possible for you to be able to move forward.
Hey, Mark, I just would add here, do you believe, what we've seen with successful companies who've made this digital transformation is they, the early adopters had a visionary leader that didn't have all the answers, but was willing to work through each one of those issues as they came up. You have to have that vision and commitment that you're going to get through this. And I think everyone at this point can, in their mind, kind of see what the benefits are, see what the value is. But there are companies who are early adopters who they just dove in and were able to conquer all the challenges that came along.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to talk about is some processes that help you through that.
Right, exactly. So from a believing standpoint, I found myself at a place where there were all these obstacles, which I really felt like, I just can't get there because there's so many things that were in my way. And like I said, is that these things started to come together. And then, those things were available to us. And it was amazing because it was almost like magically is that now it was possible to be able to do these things. These things were now falling into place and falling into alignment. And, one of the most recent things that I was involved in is last fall, I did a presentation in Bangkok, and it was about, obtaining regulatory approval. And still people are thinking, I don't think the regulators are going to accept what it is that we do. Well, let me just say this, is that I got a message 2 days ago from somebody in Latin America, and they said, well, we can't move forward because our regulators don't approve, digital data. But one of their neighboring airlines informed them, well, we're doing it. We met with the regulators and we told them what we're doing, and we presented them with a plan to be able to move forward, and they agreed, and now we're moving forward. And so, hey, you might think that it's not possible to move forward, but I literally can't find a place in the world where you can't align these things and to be able to move forward on digital transformation right now.
Mark, the regulators question always comes up, and
Yeah.
Regulators are people too. And
Yeah.
You can sit down across the table and have an adult conversation about the benefits and the compliance and increased safety, because they're reasonable people too.
Yeah, and what I'm finding right now is that the regulators that I've met with and that I work with, they're not creating obstacles. They're simply asking questions. Is that how are you going to demonstrate to us that what you're doing now is as good or better than what you were doing before, right?
Exactly.
And so it's what you're saying is it's just it's a question of reasonableness. Yeah. And we've gotten to the place now where the regulators are not pushing back. They're actually demanding that people use digital technology because it gives them better control and gives them better safety, over the processes at this point.
Exactly. But let's not get too far from belief. I started
right,
out talking about,
yeah.
I tell the story about 2003 when we were doing a demo and the demo failed. I can tell you at that point, I'm not sure I believed we were doing the right thing by delivering the software as a service. But here we are today, just about everything just about everything is software as a service. You log into a cloud-based web service and you get the information that
Constantly.
you need to do the job that you need to do.
Absolutely. So just a couple more things on this slide is that only thing I have to say is that if you're asking yourself what's stopping you, all right, is that people all around you are doing this today. There's really no obstacles, and we can and will succeed in digital transformation. And what you just said is that I've experienced that, is that every successful project that I've ever seen had a leader and a team that was committed to a successful outcome, right? Is that they went into a project and they had the mental mindset that we're not going to try this out and just see what happens. No, this is our new way of doing business, and we are going to emerge on the other side with a success. Right. And that is what creates success. The leaders creating the vision for moving forward, or enthusiastic, evangelistic people on the team that are saying, we're doing this and this is going to be successful. And I've seen people all around me do this, and we're going to be successful, creates a belief and aura around those people that creates success. They just move forward and are successful.
So Mark, what's different now? What's different now? I think the environment is ready now, and people are embracing tech. Even in the maintenance world at airlines, people are embracing new technology. So what do you think is different now? But I think the landscape is ripe for what we're talking about here. And
I think all the factors have come together, like we talked about, which have reduced the barriers for people to say that it's not possible to do it anymore, right? And they have begun to see so many successful implementations all around them. They begin to see that all of a sudden people are starting to say is that, hey, I can do this. This is possible. So let's go to secret number 2, all right? Secret number 2 is
this is really foundational.
Yeah.
I love this. So go on.
Absolutely. We're both in agreement on that. There's 4 corners to digital transformation, right? And we just talked about number 1. Absolutely unequivocal belief in moving forward is necessary for success of a digital transformation project, all right? Number 1, all right? Number 2 is people. Let me talk to you about people, all right, for a minute. Is that many times I see people saying, I don't really have the expertise or the knowledge. I don't have the people around me. I don't have the team. I don't think that I can do this. It falls back again to belief, right? But once we've already come to the conclusion that we believe, that we're going to do this from a belief standpoint, then we're looking at the people that are involved, right? And what I challenge people to do is that number 1 is that, you are more capable. If you are on this webinar today, you are somebody that's interested in digital transformation. You want to see it successful. You're engaged. Your head is mentally in the game, and you've taken the effort and the time to be involved in this and be part of this. All right. So you are part of that team. You are one of those people that are looking for success. All right. Number 2 is that we need to look at the people around us. All right. We need to look at the team that's around us. If you look at your business, there are people in your business that have a tremendous amount of expertise. Larry, when I was at Boeing, one of the things that just was amazing to me is that I looked at Boeing and I looked at the people that were at Boeing, and there wasn't hardly a single skill that didn't exist in Boeing. It was unbelievable. You just had to find it,
Exactly.
And how did you go about leveraging that for success of projects?
Well, there's a saying that Boeing doesn't know everything that Boeing knows. Right? And you're right. We just had a tremendous amount of resources to be able to inspire people to work on some really great things. But Mark, these 4 things are really powerful. And let me just tell a little story about one airline that we worked with that really embraced these 4 things. And you bolded people on here. And I don't know if you did that for a reason.
Well, it's the second one.
It's the second one. So, this is a small airline, and they had a visionary leader who said, "We're going to do this. We're going to do this." And he bought 20 iPads, and he gave them to his mechanics. And I can tell you that some of the mechanics didn't want those iPads. They said, "No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to use paper. I'm going to use my old processes. I'm going to do." And he said, "No, this is just like any other tool, and you're going to use it." By the end of the trial period, the 90-day trial period, the airline had saved a bunch of money, but each one of those mechanics had embraced the technology. They were taking their iPads home. They were using them for things that were never envisioned when they started on the process. And you know what? Those guys were happier. They felt like the company had invested in them to help make their job better. So a visionary leader that inspired the people with a little bit of a hammer, but but really what had the power to lead them. But people bought into what was happening, and unless the people buy into the change that you're trying to make, you're going to fail.
Right.
Sometimes you have to lead strongly, but certainly around this technology, what we've seen is people, once they understand it's going to make their job better and easier, they love it.
Yeah. But it also sounds like, Larry, is that you had people that believed, you had people that were engaged in the process, but it also sounds like there was some kind of a plan and there was a planned use for that technology. Is it?
Absolutely.
They just didn't buy iPads to go buy iPads. They had an application and they had something that they were planning to do. You just sort of jumped to the end of the story there, right?
Right.
That they had gone through some kind of a process to be able to identify what it is they were going to do and how they were going to be successful. And they got technology, and then the leader, drove that so that they would be successful.
Yeah, they certainly
okay.
had a vision of where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
And they saw that this digital transformation was a way of achieving not only great business success, but people buying into it, and actually their operation being a lot more efficient.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's really great. So people are such an important part of the process, because we don't leverage the people that are in our own organizations, right? And then the next thing about people that's really important is that if you don't have all the expertise you need, like let's say you're a smaller shop or you're an individual, is that then you need to rely on additional people that are outside of your organization, maybe consulting people or experts within the industry or other information sources that you have available to you, or software vendors. But basically, people that are in the industry that have knowledge on this process are critical, that they come together and that they share knowledge on what it is that's being done in order to be able to accelerate this process. So people, engaging with people, is a really important part of creating digital transformation. No question about that. Yep. All right. So the next piece of this that we have focuses on process. All right. And so we talked about business, and we talked about how the business needs to be successful. Right. We said belief and people involved and business processes are the next really critical part of this, of the 4 cornerstones of digital transformation. Now, we need to implement based on success factors. We need to take a look at our businesses. We need to look at what are the business success factors that are necessary to accomplish the job that we're trying to accomplish, right? Do we need to address production? Do we need to address efficiency in the cabin? Do we need to address efficiency in the flight deck? What are the core elements of success that we're looking for at that point? We need to examine those. We need to define what it is that we're trying to accomplish from a business standpoint before we go off and address the technology from the technology perspective. Larry, have you ever seen anybody go off and just buy technology and not really know what they're going to do with it?
Oh, absolutely. We've seen people go out and buy a bunch of iPads and then not work the step 1 or 2 here, and not know what to do with these iPads, and just not be very successful.
Yeah. Earlier this year, I actually went and visited.
That's right.
Yeah. I actually went and visited an MRO, and they really were well intentioned, and they really were trying to engage in digital transformation, and they wanted to be successful. But what they did is they went out and bought a bunch of iPads, and they bought a cabinet to put them in, and they were going to be checking in and checking them out, and they had network, and they were going to be able to sync them fast. So they had some very interesting high tech that existed, but they didn't have any applications, nor really had a business plan to be able to use them. And they turned around and looked and said, what are we going to do with this? All right. And so then they started flailing. And so a really, really critical part of this is to identify what is your business currently doing? What does it need? How are you going to create efficiencies? How are you going to create additional safety? How are you going to become more effective in the work that you're doing? How are you going to be able to create cash flow? All of those things that boil down to how do we create a successful business?
And Mark, item 1 and item 2 here are a little bit strategic. This one around processes is very tactical. This is where you really get down into nuts and bolts of where are the inefficiencies in your operation, and how can this technology bring either better compliance, better bottom line, better top line, and it really gets into that nuts and bolts of building a business case, a quantifiable business case around the value, and that's really what's in this step.
But many times we say, what are the pain points or what are the challenges, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing or it's a problem. It just might be something that's necessary to change in the business process, right? One example that I give to people is actually when I worked for the manufacturer, we were delivering, E-enabled aircraft, right? And so if you had an A350 or if you had a 787, and it had now advanced ground systems, which required advanced software, if people were using old maintenance practices and they were buying a new airplane, clearly they had an event in their business which required them to reevaluate what they're doing, right? And so what we would do is we would go in and look at what the current business processes were. We would take a look at what the incoming technology was, and how did the business processes have to change in order to be able to support that new aircraft coming in. And so what happened was there was an event in the business which required them to make changes, right? I've seen entry into service cause that. I've seen one company which was going to build a new hangar, right? And when they were building a hangar, they decided that was a good time to implement new technology. They said, let's let's look at our business processes and how can we optimize things in this new hangar and how can we make it more efficient. Let's look at the technology that's available to us. Let's put that together. But the event was a new hangar at that point in time. All right. An event might be starting up of a new business. If you're a brand new business, you might need to take a look at the new business processes and what's necessary. But again, every one of these are focused on the business. All right. And what's needed in the business. All right. I've seen some MROs that many MROs, they're running on very thin margins. All right. 3-4% margins, and their business required them to reevaluate what they were doing to improve profitability, to reduce errors in the process, and to be able to improve cash flow. And it was those business factors which drove the decision making around what are we going to do now? How do we use technology to be able to optimize, that situation, that scenario?
And like I said, Mark, and I think you've mentioned it too, this is really the nuts and bolts of building a business case.
Yeah.
That you might go to your board of directors and say, hey, this is the business case, and you're going to be asked for that. But it also, I just also want to mention that, as you start looking at your business processes, and it creates a little bit of a threatening environment for people. That's why people is on here too. And it's going to create some challenges for your leadership to continue to stay the course. But it's because you're going to start looking at how things work and how they could be better and how people's jobs might change, how people's jobs might change. So these are all really related, but where I believe the rubber meets the road is in this process. And that's when you have to be willing to stay committed to where you're going.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really true. So process is such an important part, and it's really the foundation to being able to say, what are we going to do to improve the process? We have to know what the baseline process is. What are we going to do to be able to improve it, or where are the opportunities, to improve it? And it really is the place where we start. And so the next part of that is technology. All right.
And I think you mentioned it, Mark. Some people want to jump to 4 first.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let me go out and buy a bunch of iPads, or let me buy a new server. I'm going to put this application on cloud. I want to keep reiterating that these 4 things all play together. And if you forget one, you're not going to be as successful as if you play them all together.
Yeah. Well, I frequently describe this as 4 legs on a stool. All right.
Yep. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. And if you have 4 legs on a stool, it's what provides its stability. All right. If one of these legs is missing, the stool tips over. Right?
Exactly.
And so these are really the 4 legs on a stool. Belief, people, processes, and technology. And without one of them, it tips over.
Yep.
And it's not successful. But with all 4, you can be successful. So let's go to technology now. So let's talk about technology. So you're looking at new technology, and we talked about all the business reasons why you might have needed technology. And you're saying, well, really, where do I start? What do I really do? Well, it requires research. It requires talking to your internal team, socializing with industry experience, talking to vendors. You might be putting out RFIs, but it's all of those pieces to be able to really take a look at what's available to you in the industry and examine the technology which might be available to be applied to what it is, the business problems that you're trying to solve.
But you do have to start. You
Yeah.
have to start. I mean, we've talked to some companies who, well, I'm going to wait till iOS 12.3 before I go down this journey.
They make it a lifetime research project.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
right. Yeah,
So,
so it can't be a lifetime research project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is probably one of the 4. There's a lot of buts in this one that you have to just get over and say, okay, we're going to go with iOS 12.1, and we're just going to go.
Yeah.
And because I think, Mark, you did a little video of a cell phone, right?
Yeah,
and,
I did. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really applicable here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and then the other part that we'll add in now is that once you've examined the technology, then the whole process starts over again. All right.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Because technology without business application is useless. All right. Business application without considering what technology you could use to improve it doesn't give you the maximum efficiency or optimization. All right. And so that's where that process has to go over and over and over again.
You called it a journey, and
Yeah.
it is a journey, and you're going to adjust as you go. As
Yeah.
you go through each one of these steps, you're going to learn,
Yeah.
and then you're going to change and continue down that journey to get to the top of the digital mountain.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So these really are the 4 cornerstones of digital transformation. All right. And it's these 4 things put together which create the ability for you to be successful. So, I got a question for you is that, can you relate to this? I mean, can you find yourself in a situation where you've been challenged by these things, where you've been challenged by business process, or where you've been challenged by technology? Are you guys getting some value out of this? Do you feel like you're getting some good information, about the things that we're talking about? Yeah, good. All right, well, let's move to the next one. So the next one that we have is actually secret number 3. Now, this is a picture I took recently, and it was just perfect because I use this example.
This is a good example.
Yeah, I use this example often, is that I actually was on a ferry recently, and a lot of times on the tables on the ferry, people will lay out puzzles like this. But, when you're taking a look at your vision for the future, right, the way I describe this is that many times we have puzzle pieces that are laying all over the table, and somebody a long time ago has lost the cover to the box, right? And we're all sitting around, and we're trying to put the puzzle together, and we're doing the best job that we can, and we look at what the colors look like, and we have the edge pieces, and we're doing the best that we can to put this thing together, but we're not really exactly sure how to put it together. We're gonna get there. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But it just takes time. It takes longer than what it should, because somewhere along the line, somebody lost the vision for what the picture looked like in the future, right? And so what I like to try to tell people is that it's really, really super important that you do this, right? In your business, what does the picture look like, right? You're not going to have a perfect understanding of what the picture looks like, because you can get locked up saying, I don't know what it is, but you need to look at what it is that you're trying to do and why. All right, what does the picture look like? All right, what would be maybe the minimum viable product or the minimum viable solution that you're looking at? And the most important thing that I can say is, do not become overwhelmed. All right, I tell people all the time, just look at the situation, look at the facts, and work the problem. All right, just work the problem. All right, expect that the puzzle will change. Just adapt, adapt, and modify the vision. That is absolutely a firm position. Is that the vision will change. Right? Is it, hey, who out there recently bought a cell phone? All right, and as soon as you bought that cell phone, the next model was out. All right.
Exactly.
Or who out there went out?
That's the cell phone that I was talking. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or you go out and you buy the latest and greatest iPad, and the next thing you know, that there's a better one, that came out, right? And so what's an absolute guarantee is that we're living in a time in history where technology is changing at such a rapid pace that you can expect that things are going to change. It's just absolute positive that things are going to change.
That's part of the vision. That things are going to change along the journey.
It is.
Exactly.
And so we just have to learn how to adapt to that, and just adapt to the fact that things are going to change. And so
I think it's important here too, Mark, you don't get vision stagnation or constipation. We used to say, think big, start small, go fast.
Okay.
And so, and that really helps you refine your vision and really get going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, you need to focus on what are the core elements for success, and keep focusing on those and building those high value elements, and continuing to add, to the puzzle, and then begin to continue to modify the puzzle as you go forward. But the biggest thing I can say is just don't be overwhelmed, and don't feel like it's not a problem that can be solved at this point, because you're going to have ever-changing scenarios, and you have to live with the changes that are happening around you, and just learn to adapt to it.
But Mark, it is going to be overwhelming at times. And that's why I think you talk about the 4 pillars are just so important around belief, making sure that people are buying in, processes and technology, because it is going to get frustrating along the journey.
Absolutely. So staying motivated and believing in what you're doing are absolutely critical, components of it. No question. So let's go to the next piece. I told you on the webinar that we would, talk a little bit about a 30-day plan for success. Is that now? Why did I pick 30 days? Is because we are absolutely convinced that in the life that we live in today, that we can accelerate things. All right. I have always in my life had people tell me, "Hey, you're moving too fast. It's going to take 2 years to do that," and I just ignore that and just keep moving forward.
I had this discussion with Mark about 10 minutes ago.
We just have to move forward faster and further than we have before. And you have to say, how can we do that? And you might say, well, 30-day plan for success, what does that really even mean? Is it, we believe that it's possible to be able to, in a 30-day period, to substantially move forward in a digital transformation journey. There's no question about it. And not just not just create a plan for success, but actually, if it fits in your business, to be able to put things in place for success. I've actually implemented entire systems in 30 days, all right? Point systems. And so it's entirely possible to be able to do that. And so 30 days is a period in time which is quite acceptable to be able to move forward and to create success, in an environment like this. So there's a few things that we would kind of lay out. In the very first week, we talked about how important believing is, and how important, engaging with the leadership team is, and with the enterprise, and maintaining and keeping momentum. And then week 2 basically looks like, kicking off of a project, and, creating a vision and a plan, and understanding what the standards are, and focusing on a business case, and really what is it you're trying to accomplish, maybe from a paperless environment or from a digital environment. What is it you're trying to do?
Hey, Mark, you're going to talk about this, I think, but we're not asking people to spend 8 hours a day on each one of these subjects, right?
No,
Okay.
it's not. We're going to come back to that, but
Okay.
but absolutely is that when I say a 30-day plan for success, most every one of us, has a full-time job that we're doing, and so this might be your full-time job, but most of us are having to do things in the middle of what we're doing,
Okay.
of the business itself, the business of making money. And so these are things that are added on. There's no question
So
about that.
we've tried to tailor this to fit into people's current workload and their current.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And then if you look at what the next piece of a 30-day plan might look like, it might be managing of expectations of people around you, change management, creating momentum. Maybe RFPs might be involved. There might be project plans, business cases, or process flows. But all those things are very achievable within a 3 to 4 week period. And then you have the need to address key performance indicators, addressing data and analytics, and profitability and cash flows, and maybe record keeping, examining your new future. But those are all core elements of what you could do to be able to put together a plan for success in a period of time, which is really as short as 30 days. So I want to come back to this. Is that you might be asking yourself, is that was a lot of stuff that you just said right there. I mean, how in the world could that happen, in a 30-day period? And I might ask you then, is that how do you accomplish this? But I have a question for you, all right? Is that we talked about secret 1, 2, and 3, all right? And is it if you did secret 1, 2, and 3, do you think you could be successful? All right. Question for you. Well, maybe you're thinking, I don't know, I'm not really sure. Ask yourself really what's stopping you from doing that. Is it belief? Is it tools? Is it expertise? Is it time? There's things that are probably getting in your way, from accomplishing that. Because if there weren't things getting in the way, you probably would have done it already, at this point. So I'm going to go to the next slide. I bring up the slide that says that there's this traditional thinking and approach that we have to consulting, all right? And you might say, well, why are you bringing that up right now? Well, and the reason I'm asking—
I haven't seen this slide, Mark. This is good.
Well, one reason that we might be bringing that up is that I have a question for you. Is that do you do everything in your life by yourself? Do you work on your car yourself? Did you go out and buy a house, or did you build a house? Or if you're going to remodel your house, do you hire somebody to do it? And, so the answer is that, we frequently in our lives, hire people to do things, right? And one way that our industry has leveraged that in the past is we've gone out and hired expertise. We've hired consultants to do that. Now, for some people that conjures up a positive vision, other people that conjures up a negative vision of a consultant coming in, But I wanted to point out one thing, is that there was a period of time in my life where I ran a consulting business, and there was one particular airline which hired me. It was actually American Airlines, so the largest airline in the world, and Sabre. They hired me as a consultant, and I worked for them for 3 years, and they paid $2.2 million for my expertise for 3 years, right? And
they got a bargain.
They got a bargain. Thank you. So you might ask yourself, is that okay? Well, one way that you can do it is you can go out and pay $2 million, to hire somebody to go do this. But we believe that there's a better way, to doing that today. We all know that having expertise, that can assist us and help us in getting things done is an approach to doing that. But many times it's just too costly to be able to do that. So here's the approach that we believe, can be successful. Is that we believe that to move faster and further, that we need to leverage technology and the internet and video, just like every other industry that's out there today. Every other industry out there today is doing these kind of things. Hey, I told you I work on cars, right? Okay. And I do it occasionally, not as much anymore. But the very first thing I do when I'm going to work on my car is I go to YouTube and I go, how does somebody fix this before? Because I'm trying to leverage technology to be able to accelerate what I'm doing and not have to take as much time to be able to go figure it out, right?
And you know, Mark, even in the traditional academic space, they're moving toward virtual learning,
Online
virtual training,
learning,
online,
yeah, right,
online
yeah,
universities. You know, it happens to be the biggest competitor to classroom training is
absolutely,
online learning. And I think it's
absolutely,
just you mentioned looking at a YouTube video before you work on your
yeah,
car or
yeah,
before you do
yeah,
pretty much anything. Taking that model and using it here is just going to be tremendously effective.
yeah, absolutely. So what we've found is that you can access that same experience of having that kind of expertise and consulting to you without paying millions by using these kind of approaches. And so what we've done here at Digital Aircraft is that we have come up with a digital transformation masterclass accelerator. So digital transformation accelerator masterclass, right? And so I wanted to tell you is how we as an organization are assisting people and helping people to be able to move forward and to be successful. Hey, listen, I have a question for you out there on the webinar. Is that if you had a way to be successful, would it be interesting to you? If it worked for you, if you believed that this was an environment or an approach that you would be able to take to be successful, would it be worth it to you? Well, we believe that by leveraging technology and by leveraging video and the internet and all the things that are available today that other industries are leveraging, that we can change the model within aviation. And we can make this valuable consulting type of information, this experience from people like Larry and I, available to people that in the past might have cost you $2 million or something to do that. And we can make that, we've made that available to people today.
And you know, Mark, we're really taking the four cornerstones that you've talked about as the way to structure a 30-day session with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I have the passion and the vision, right? we're going to involve a lot of different people to make this happen. The technology is finally there, and we're seeing it embraced across the planet, and processes.
So what we've done is we've come up with a master class, basically, which leverages all those environments and makes available to people a program which can help them to be successful within a 30-day period. And let me explain to you what this basically looks like. We have a 30-day master class, which basically in the very first week focuses on belief and your leaders and the belief and the team and belief and connecting with the enterprise, belief and momentum. And the format of this basically is, like you said earlier, is not a full-time dedicated engagement in something. We've actually put together a program where simply 1 hour a day, we bring a video to people.
5 days a week.
5 days a week. Which,
not seven.
Not seven. 5 days a week, which brings to people the information necessary, just like going onto YouTube, to be able to be successful. And it starts with belief.
Yep.
It goes into the next week with what do you need to do to create a kickoff, to be able to have a vision and a plan, and what industry standards should I be paying attention to, and how about a business case, and what about paperless operations? And so we essentially go through this week by week with a 1 hour video a day that you can actually watch live, or you can come back to it if it's not convenient to your time zone, and you can watch it actually online. And it actually brings you to a place where we can leverage technology to bring this valuable knowledge to you so that it can be in a more convenient, cost-effective means than ever before. The next week comes business processes and technology options, and what are your requirements, and evaluating those options, and what about regulations, and then moving on next into how do we manage expectations and change management, and how do we keep momentum going with the team, and what about RFPs and project plans and business cases and process flows. And wow, there's just a lot of information that's there.
Yeah.
But what we're actually doing is we're actually walking you through this week by week, day by day, and giving you this valuable consulting, this valuable information available to you in a time frame which is convenient to you and in a format that's easy to access.
And with a deliverable that's a really short 30 days.
Very short time frame, very short time frame, all the way through to the week 4, bringing you to the place where you're looking at what your new future is, right?
Exactly.
Now, Larry said this to me earlier, is that he says, I have a particular affinity to sales, and I do. And I believe that we have not in sales been leveraging digital transformation at all right?
Exactly.
And scaling. And I have specific experience in applying digital transformation to sales. And so we've actually added a 5th week. So we have the first week is belief, 30 days, which is week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we've added a bonus week to that, which actually is sales and focused on sales, believing in your product, setting up the sale, doing the math, closing the deal, and applying digital transformation to sales. And so all these things we've packed into an amazing masterclass. And you might ask yourself, is it, well, if these two guys are worth $2 million a piece, right? That's what you told me, right?
Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is it, well, what is this thing going to cost me? All right. How is this going to work? And so, we've actually said that the value of this, if you take a look at the cost per hour of somebody.
So Mark, you're going to walk through the value first.
I am. That's what I'm saying.
Then
right
we're
now.
going to talk about cost.
Right. So,
okay.
So the value of this, if you were to look at an hourly consulting rate, this would come to $10,500 just for, the value of that. Now, we're not going to charge people that, but that's actually what the value of this class is $10,500. And then the next thing might be that, well, I'm not really sure that it's for me. I'm not really sure if I'm going to like it. Well, we've immediately thrown in there a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if people aren't satisfied with this, then we have a money-back guarantee that's part of that. And then, we said that, hey, we're going to throw in an extra week, which was part of that. And that week 0 is belief. And we're going to focus on, belief and working with a team and how do you facilitate and planning out your journey. And that's really a super important part of this whole thing. So if we add that on, that adds another $1,700. If you just look at the hourly rates and the amount of time it takes to do this kind of a thing, that's really what the value of that is. Next is, you might say, well, okay, videos are good, but it'd be nice if we had some tools, right? So what we've actually included here is business process templates, so that you can actually take those templates and you can modify them, and they're a tool. They're actually a tool that you can use and give you a jump start, in your journey.
We talked about processes being kind of the nuts and bolts of this, and that's kind of what we're talking about here is some templates or some firm tools to help you guide your way to building a business case.
Yep. And so we've assigned a value of that to be about $500. And then the next thing is that, well, there's a business case development. So, you do have to define a return on investment and what are the numbers and crunch those numbers. And so we put some spreadsheets and things in there as well. And, we believe that's worth another $500, on top of that. So you take a look at the way this is stacking up is that already with these first 4 items, it's up to over $13,000 in value already. Now, people also come to the place where they want to go out and do RFPs. And so we've given some templates in there for people to be able to create RFPs. So you want to do a request for proposal or a request for information. Is that, wow, just think about how long it takes to be able to create this kind of thing and the amount of time and investment that goes into doing that.
Exactly.
And we give people templates to be able to do that. We assign a simple value of that to $500, but I personally can tell you it's worth way more than that. Next is that you have to have a project plan. You have to have a plan to be able to figure out how to be able to move forward. And we've put some project plans in there for digital transformation. And so all these tools become an incredibly valuable part of this. It's not just education and training and information. It's really tools that become part of this program.
That all fit within the structure that we've talked about.
All fit within the structure of what we're talking about. Yep, exactly. Next is that, hey, there's a really, really important part of this is that one-on-one coaching. Is that we've been successful in doing one-on-one coaching with people. And by doing that virtually, hey, think about this, is that in the past, if you were to access consulting knowledge or consulting expertise, you basically had to reach out to somebody and you had to have them fly in and you're paying for their expenses. And I've never had a consultant come and pay them less than $3,000 to $5,000 a day, to come and do that. And so, we're offering one-on-one consulting on a virtual basis, doing video conferencing that just simply was not available to people in the past. You couldn't even do it until this kind of technology was there. We're helping people with strategy and planning and technical review and team guidance. And we're doing that for every single person that jumps into this program, 1 time a week, one-on-one for 4 weeks at this point. So, that comes to a value of about $2,500. So this package so far has a value of over $16,000. And then the next thing is that we said it's really important to access the expertise of people around you. And so having group coaching is a really critical and important part of digital transformation, because you want to leverage the knowledge of people around you, right? Is that, like I said before, I've worked with over 200 companies, and I have acquired knowledge from people around me that's really increased my understanding and knowledge of digital transformation.
And I also would say, Mark, you've put a lot of time into building a network. And, it's just me and you here today, but we've put a lot of time into building a support network to help this coaching be a lot more effective.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so having a group coaching, session, having a mastermind of sorts with shared knowledge and peer review is really an important part of success. And so we've assigned another $1,200 in value, really to that. And so right now the value of this is, creeping up to $18,000. And next is that we believe that having access to experts, through social media is an important part of being able to be successful.
Yep.
And being able to go on to like a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page and to be able to ask questions and get answers to some of your things that you needed in real time is really an important part. And so we've also assigned here 30 days of access to experts in the industry, and we've assigned a value of that of $5,000. And I think that that's a small fraction of the real value of it, because like I said, is that you could pay $3,000 to $5,000 for 1 day of coaching and consulting from an expert consultant in this industry. So the value of this has gone up to almost $23,000 at this point. And we have a membership site, and in that membership site is the vault where all this information is captured and maintained, and the training is there, the tools and templates and the videos and the downloads. And this is a safety and a storage, vault.
Yep.
And the way this works is that every time we do this, we have a different group of people, and the type of people that are on there are just a little bit different. And so it's extremely critical that this infrastructure we have be modified to meet the needs of the people that are going through the program at that point. And so what we do is that through the group and through the one-on-one coaching sessions, we actually work to modify the program to meet the needs of the people that are currently going through. And the process, like we said earlier, the process is really, really important. And so what we do is we start out in the first day, and we go to the second day and the third day, and we release that information progressively as we go through the program. And the reason that we do that is that if you jump to the end, like we said, you jump to the technology part, or you start creating an RFP, you've missed the process, you've missed the belief, you've missed the engagement, the motivation. And our experience has been that people are not successful. And so the way we do this is that it feeds right into helping people to be successful, in this program. So, that site itself and the vault, we've assigned a value of $700 to that essentially. So the value of this has gone up to $24,000 right now. And like we said, we provide a private Facebook site which people can go to and go in and ask questions.
Facebook site in the aviation
industry.
The aviation
industry. And you might ask, why do we have a Facebook site in the aviation industry? Is because blogs and things are just not as frequent anymore as Facebook.
Right.
And so having a private Facebook group is a place that people can go to and access the expertise that they're looking for in this closed environment where only the people that have private access to it can access the experts that we've made available.
Love or hate, whether you love Facebook or hate Facebook, this is a great way to share.
It has reach.
Yes.
It has reach.
Yeah.
There's more people on Facebook than any other social media platform in the world today. Yep.
And that's where we're going to start.
It really is.
As other platforms become more popular.
Yep.
We'll change.
So we've included it. We've included this as part of the program. We also have unlimited access to our LinkedIn site where you can access shared knowledge and Q&A and videos and posts. And so really what that brings us up to is a value so far of almost $24,000. Also wanted to point out is that we actually work with a lot of vendors. I've worked with maybe over 200 software vendors, and we have relationships with different vendors, and we have the ability to bring special discounts or affiliate programs to people. And that in itself can be worth thousands and thousands of dollars, but we haven't assigned any value to that. It's just been included as part of the program. And then the last thing that I'll say is that I told you about my special affinity to sales process, and we've included a sales mastery program for 1 week for people to be able to engage and to be able to learn how to leverage the power of the internet in sales and how to multiply your lead development, through the internet and using technology, how to track those leads once they come in. One of the biggest problems that people have today is that we're out chasing leads and we're creating new leads, and then nobody follows up on them.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to track those leads and to be able to stay motivated, really how to access industry programs to be able to 10x your sales, and then to have process tracking tools to really know exactly what the math is to be able to create success. So in an abbreviated program, in 1 week, we have a focus on digital transformation being applied to sales to help people in the sales business to be able to be successful. So what that comes to is a total of $27,000. So almost $30,000
In value.
worth of value that exists. And so you might say to yourself, well, I can't do that. I'm not a big company. We don't really have the resources or the funds to be able to do it. Or maybe you are a big company and you're ready to do that. But what I can say is that companies have paid, like I said, millions of dollars for this kind of program. And so what I'll tell you is that what we've done is we basically have said, hey, we're not going to charge you that. All right, that's just value in this. And what we're doing is on September 1st, when this program starts, September 2nd, when this program starts, until then, this program is being offered at $49.97. All right, so on September 1st, if someone gets onto this program, it's going to be made available at $4,997. Right? But between now and September 1st, which is only a few days from now, we have dramatically discounted this program all the way down to only $997. Right? And what I'll say is that $997 for $30,000 worth of program is absolutely amazing. All right. And we're making that available to people so that they can access this kind of expertise, knowledge, tools. And you might ask, well, why are we doing that? All right. Why are we doing that? Well, we're doing that because we want for the industry to be able to move further and faster than we ever have before in the past. Right. And so we're making this program available.
But I think we just have a real belief and a real passion around making this happen.
Absolutely.
And, we want to get as many people on the boat as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. We want people, we really have a passion for helping people. Larry and I have spent an entire career, focusing on this business, and we want to help people. We want to help people be successful. And so we're making this kind of a program available to people. Now, you can actually go to our ordering website, which is at order.digitalaircraft.org. And for actually the next 30 minutes, we're making this price really available to people. All right. And on September 1st, like we had said, is that the program that is offered at that point is going to be $4,997. Right. So we've really been super excited to be able to talk to you about this today. And we want to spend the next few minutes to actually talk about some of the reasons why people don't engage and actually don't do this type of thing, right? Because
what do you call it, Mark? You call it false beliefs.
Well, we call it false beliefs. And the reason we call it false beliefs is because people have a position in their mind where they say, oh, I can't do that, right?
Exactly.
And one of the reasons that people don't do something is because of price, for example, right? But I want you to think about this for a minute, all right? You might think, well, $997, what can this thing be worth if it's only $997? I mean, is it even really worth anything, right? Well, I have a different perspective on that, a different spin on that, all right? Is that you have knowledge and expertise that's being poured into this and being made available to you that others have paid millions for, right? That's being available to you for only $997. And you might think, well, how can you have a business that revolves around only $997? Well, we have multiple people that are engaged in the program, right? And so what we're doing is we're able to leverage it across a larger group of people to be able to bring you something of tremendous value for a very low price. And that's nothing different than what happens in the technology industry. As we scale technology and devices become more available and things become more prevalent, the price goes down, right? And it's only because it can be mass produced. And what we've done is we've identified a way in the industry to take consulting and make it available to people at a dramatically reduced price, giving the exact same knowledge and value that people have paid a lot more for at a much lower price because that it's being made more available in a larger scale at this point. So, price ends up being one thing, all right? One of the next things that ends up being a bit of a false belief is people don't believe that they can actually do this, right? And so you might say to yourself, I don't know, digital transformation, we've tried it, it hasn't worked before. Larry, what are some of the ways that you've seen that people have been able to get over,
well, we talked
not believing?
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit earlier in the webinar. Is just get started. Just get started, and once people start getting engaged and using this new technology, I think you'll find that there'll be a lot of excitement around using the new technology and watching their job, watching them be more efficient day in and day out. People recognize this themselves, and they see it. It's a traditional organizational change problem. Is how do you get people engaged to buy into the vision, and you do that by showing them what is the benefit to them, and if their job is easier, if if compliance to a regulation is easier, it just really helps for the people buying.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons that in the program that we spend so much time focusing on belief, is because you need to believe, the people around you need to believe, and so we give the support and the coaching and the encouragement and the enthusiasm around the belief, and help people to get over that. Because look around you, people in the industry are doing it. All right, people are successful around you, and if you're not doing it right now because you aren't really sure whether you can be successful or not, well, what you need is you need support. You need people, you need tools, you need people that believe in it. You need people that believe in you, people that believe that you can be successful in this. And that's one of the things that we're bringing. We're bringing that coaching, that strategy, and that expertise. Hey, Larry, I've showed up at airline customers who have said, when an expert shows up and gives them some advice and information and direction and says, you should do this, that they've been successful, every single time in doing that. And I saw that when we were working together. And I think that that's really an important part of breaking that, that false belief that you can't do it. Yeah. So the next one that I wanted to address is many times people have a false belief that, oh, well, digital transformation is interesting, but when it comes time to implement the technology, it's too costly. It just costs too much to implement the technology.
Mark, on this one, I just again would reiterate, if you follow the 4 steps, you're going to close a business case. Not any company that we've worked with, and Mark and I have worked with a lot of companies in this space, if they follow the process that we've talked about today, the business case closes always.
Yeah, absolutely. And many times people aren't focusing on the right factors for success. Okay, so sometimes people will go in and look at a business case and they look at it very narrowly, and they're not looking at all the different pieces of the business case that might add up to the return on investment. And sometimes they're not focusing on the right things. Maybe not the right things, or maybe they're not focusing on enough factors.
Right.
And one good example I'll point out is this, is that many times people will look at maybe replacement of technology and saying, we're going to replace technology and we're going to look at the return on investment from doing that. But because they look at just maybe a small piece of that, it's very difficult to gain the return on investment from that. All right. Now, I've been in situations where we've looked at maybe optimizing of production and maintenance, for example, right? And our focus on our business case was on reducing the amount of time that a mechanic worked on the airplane and reducing the span time of accomplishing the maintenance. And we were able to successfully achieve 10, 20, 30, 40% improvements in production. And when you multiply that times the number of people that are involved in doing production, the value that came from that didn't come from the replacement of the technology. It really came from the efficiencies that were created in production. And capturing that, putting key performance indicators in place, being able to demonstrate that that actually really happened, was the ways that we were able to close on the business case. And here what we're able to do is we're able to bring the knowledge of creating a good business case and the tools to be able to create a good business case together for you to be able to create success, in this situation. So, we can't afford the technology, right? And so all that being said, is a business case then comes down to the technology gets paid for by the dramatic savings that result out of operations in the end.
And Mark, we can't forget there's always 2 pieces to every business case. There's the part that you can quantify, and you got to have that.
Yep.
But there's the piece that you can't quantify, and you have to have that qualitative piece of the business cases as well, whether it be people more satisfied with their job. One thing I've seen is once you implement these new technologies and people have bought into them and you realize the efficiencies, you're able to ask questions that you never were able to ask before, because it just opens up a whole new door of possibilities for efficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're asking yourself, my organization can't afford new technology at this point, Well, we have found that by producing a valid business case that focuses on the right return on investments, that the technology is paid for out of operations, frequently. So that's been a really important part.
And we've seen every end of the spectrum. We've seen companies go and run pilot projects to prove the business case.
Yep.
And we've seen companies just dive in and just have a firm belief that this is the right way to go. And we can provide advice on what is the best way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the next false beliefs that people have is this content in this program really for me? I mean, what are you really talking about? Are you talking about an airline? Are you talking about a maintenance and repair organization? Or are you talking about a software company? Or are we talking about a consultant? My answer is yes, we are. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason that I can say that is this, is that everybody's journey, like we said, is a little bit different. All right. The process that you're going through is a process of creating significant efficiencies, rethinking your business, looking at people, processes, and technology to create a successful business, right? And whether you're doing that in the software sales business, or whether you're doing it in the maintenance business, or whether you're doing it in an airline, the process is the same. You're just accomplishing different things.
Yep,
like,
exactly.
For example, we have people on the webinar right now with airlines, right? And if you're with an airline, you might be looking at, how do we create digital transformation to deploy new technology in my airline, right? This program is perfect for you because we're going to walk you through the process of how do you identify what it is that you need to do, and how do we justify it, how do we evaluate the right solutions, and how do we implement it, how do we make that successful? This is perfect for someone, that's an airline, right? The exact same situation applies for somebody that might be in a maintenance and repair organization. The exact same thing. You're looking at your business, you're looking at what your needs are in the business, you're looking at what it is the business processes, how do we improve those business processes, how do we find technology which will give me efficiencies through a return on investment, how do we as a team implement that, how do we make that successful? All of that is exactly the same process, but being applied to a maintenance organization. Now, let me go to the next case. If you're a software company and you're selling your product, right now today, all right, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to better understand the digital transformation process within the aviation industry, maybe better understand an airline organization or a maintenance organization, so that you can present your solution in a consultative kind of manner, and to be able to sell your solution to that organization and get them to be able to buy the product, right? Digital transformation can be applied to lead generation, leveraging and expanding your scope within the industry for people to know who you are, to understand your product, to be able to contact you and to get in touch with your product, and to be able to review it. And so going through a digital transformation process, like in a software company, might be twofold. It might be understanding your customer and what their needs are and their requirements are, and it might be scaling the availability of your product and your lead generation process to be able to accelerate your revenues, that you are doing in your sales and software process.
Yeah, I think you guys have heard Mark and I talk a lot about aviation, and obviously our domain knowledge is in aviation. But the process that we're talking about is widely applicable across a variety of business models and industries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, and then so next, one of the other places that you might be saying, is this really for me? Are you a consultant? All right. And there are many industry consultants that exist out there today. And you might say, well, I want to increase my consulting business. And so what we've defined really actually a process that a consultant can use to be able to work through with one of their potential clients, to be able to accelerate their digital transformation process, and to be able to help that client to be successful in their digital transformation. So what we're really doing is we're really helping consultants to think through what their consulting process is with customers, with clients, to be able to help those clients to be able to do digital transformation.
Right.
You see, what we're really all about is really finding ways all throughout the industry to be able to help people to do digital transformation. And so whether it's a consultant or an OEM, or whether it be an airline or a software company or a training company, all of these same processes apply in all those different environments. Exactly. And so if you're asking if this is really for you, Yes, it is. This is really for you. So one of the next things that people ask is that, I don't really know how to start. I don't really know where to go or really what to do or even how to even begin, this process. And so Larry and I have many, many times seen that that what stops people from moving forward is just simply they don't know where to start.
Exactly.
Right? They just
right.
don't know what to do.
Yep.
And so that's why we've designed this as more of a structure around a program, a process, so that we can give people a starting point, right? And we've designed it so that there's some steps to go through, and we've designed it so that we can come around you and provide the coaching and the consulting, to be able to help you to be successful. And so we believe that by providing this kind of a structured process and providing the tools that you can use to be successful, that it steps you down the process of this digital transformation, of this process. So what better way to get a start in doing something to have somebody that's been through it before?
Exactly.
Somebody that's been through it and understands it and has seen other people be successful and apply that knowledge, to your situation. So, if you don't know where to start, we think that this is exactly, where you should be. Hey, one of the other things that we found that keeps people from moving forward is kind of the status quo, situation.
Yeah.
I mean, Larry, how often have we gone somewhere and someone says, "Wow, what we're doing, it's not broke. Let's just keep doing what we're doing."
Or I can get as much manpower as I need. Labor is cheap. I can get as many people as I need. Why should I change? Why? I mean, I don't really buy into this digital transformation vision. Let's just stay where I'm at. And if you do that, you're gonna start falling behind your competitor because other people in the industry, in any industry, are making this change.
Absolutely.
And they are realizing real dollar benefits.
Yep.
And their employees are happy.
Hey, there are businesses that are going out of there are companies that are going out of business all the time, especially in the aviation industry. All right. And the main reason that people go out of business is because they aren't profitable. They can't be successful. Right. And so if you think that that you could stay status quo and what you're doing works and you can just kind of make little minor tweaks and improvements, I would have to say, look around you, look at all the businesses that are not successful around you. And that if you're just sitting still right now, there's going to be somebody that's going to overtake your business. And what we're doing is we're offering you the opportunity to leverage this kind of experience to be able to help your business to be able to move forward. And it's not status quo anymore. We can help you to be more profitable. We can help you to improve cash flow. We can help you to improve safety and productivity and span time of repairs on aircraft. And we can help you to implement mobile devices. And we have people that we're working with they're doing technology implementations above the wing in the cabin and a lot of different things. And all of those are going to be impacted by the speed of the industry. And if you're not getting on board and if you're not doing digital transformation, you are going to get left behind because the other companies are going to move forward. And so status quo just doesn't exist anymore.
And I think we said it too. You're going to have a more productive workforce.
Yep.
I mean,
Absolutely.
above and beyond the financial gains that you can measure, your workforce will be more engaged, more willing to implement the next new technology that comes along.
Yep. You have a happier workforce, and people that enjoy doing what they're doing, and they're engaged, and they're mentally engaged, and people like to be successful. I mean, people want to be successful, right? When people can't get their job done because there's obstacles or it's difficult or
or we're removing some of those obstacles.
We are, or paper gets lost, or things like that. It creates difficulty in the workplace, and digital transformation really helps people to be successful in the workplace, right? And if we look around us at the entire new workforces that are coming in, the people that have been involved in digital, all their lives, they were born with digital, they had the internet around them from the very, very beginning. People expect that, to be part of the workplace today. And so to really be in status quo and to not leverage technology around us is just not an option, in the world that we live in today. It's just gone away.
And Mark, one of the most powerful things I've seen is, we walk into a hangar and the foreman there was actually older than me. And he says, "Larry, come here, look at this." And he's got his work instructions on his cell phone. And he was so excited about
Yeah.
having his work instructions on his cell phone, a guy who's older than me, you
Yeah.
know, and that sort of enthusiasm, you know, just it's contagious across the workplace.
It really is. It really is. So, you know, status quo just really isn't an option anymore. It just isn't an option. One of the other things that we hear people say, you know, Larry, is we hear people say it's just too hard. It's too much work, and it's just too hard. Well, we kind of addressed that a little bit before, but if you take a look at the just too hard, you know, kind of a thing, that's why we're trying to help people to make this, make them successful, right? Is that you have to remember that this isn't your fault. In the past, maybe the things which haven't been successful, there's been good reasons for it, right? There's been technology that wasn't there. You know, there's, you know, standards that weren't there, data wasn't there. There's been good reasons why you haven't been successful in the past, right? And so now it actually is easier than ever at this point.
We talked about that. This is the right environment. This is the right time. This is the right landscape to embrace this sort of a program.
Right. Look around and the people around you and the successes that they're having, and you know, it is happening today, and maybe it isn't easy. All right, but definitely having support and having an approach to do it, and having a defined process, and having tools and having people to be able to help you through that, you know, makes a tremendous difference in the ability to be successful. And so that's why we focused on doing this and helping people to be successful. Is that, yeah, maybe it's not easy, but we can move from hard to possible. All right, is what we can do. All right.
If it was easy, it wouldn't be fun.
No, it wouldn't.
This is really fun.
Would it? All right. Okay. So listen, there's one more thing which I hear from people, you know, a lot, and that's, hey, you know, I don't know if the regulators will really accept or buy into what we're doing. You know? And that was really a legitimate concern, you know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because even though there were a lot of regulators in the U.S. that were still buying into digital transformation, there was a lot of places around the world where the technology just hasn't really moved forward. And so people, you know, the regulators weren't as ready to accept it. Now, why wouldn't the regulators accept it? Well, it's because, you know, maybe the technology wasn't clean enough, or maybe it wasn't clear to them what the process was, or maybe the people didn't completely understand it, or, you know, all the pieces really weren't there. But what we found now is that with all the pieces really in place, and with them clearly articulated or clearly spoken to the regulators on what's the plan, what is it that you're doing, and how are you going to be successful, and how are you going to ensure that you're meeting the intent of the regulations, and how are you going to make sure that what you're doing is better than what you've done in the past, right? Okay. And once you can demonstrate that, we have not found any regulators that won't move forward anymore. It just doesn't happen.
You know, for me, Mark, some of the most just fun and exciting conversations I've had is sitting across the table from a regulator, showing what digital transformation is all about, showing that, well, this is safer, showing that there's more controls on compliance, and watching the light bulb go off. Like I said, regulators are people too. They're pretty smart guys too, and they get it. And they understand when you have those conversations, why this is a better way to go than dirty fingerprint paper.
Yeah. And Larry, I know you've done this as well, but I've helped people through operational approval in the cockpit. I've helped people through approval in the hangar. You know, basically documenting and pulling all the things together necessary for meeting of the needs of the regulators and to be able to create success. And we have over and over again helped people to create that success. As a matter of fact, I even last year, I mentioned earlier in the webinar that I did a presentation at a conference in Bangkok, and it was about regulatory approval. And I spoke to the regulatory approval and a process that people can go through. And one of the local trade magazines picked that up, and they wrote an article on it. And so I have actually done quite a bit of work in the area of regulatory approval and helped people to be successful. And so, you know, I can tell you with a great deal of confidence, you know, today that regulators are accepting what it is that's being done today. So to say that regulatory approval is an obstacle and you just can't get there, hey, you just need some support. You know, you just need a little bit of guidance and some guidelines and some support and help and being able to make this thing move forward. And regulatory approval is not really an issue.
You know, Mark, there's probably a lot more false beliefs, but pretty good job going through those.
Yeah, I think we've hit on the majority of them. So listen, I want to tell you today that we have been very, very excited to be able to be here in this webinar and to have people on this webinar now. It's been, you know, nearly an hour and a half. It's been 90 minutes now that we've had people on the webinar. And it's very exciting for us to be helping the industry to do digital transformation. And it's definitely something that is, near and dear to us, and it's important to us. And we are committed to helping people to move farther and faster than what they ever have before, right? And for a limited time, we're offering this program to people at this ridiculously low value or ridiculously low price of $997. And again, people just ask themselves, is that why are you even doing that when, when it costs so much to actually provide this, right? What can you even do for $1,000, all right? Well, what we're doing is we're leveraging it across a large number of people. I mean, we're limiting this to 100 people that are going to go through this next program, which starts actually on September 2nd. And so through September 1st, we're actually offering this at $997. Okay. And on September 1st or on September 2nd, this is going to go up to $4,997. Now, even at just under $5,000, people are getting almost $30,000 in value. And what I can tell you is that even at $30,000, I have hired consultants and I have paid them over $50,000 a month, myself alone, right? Yep. And so what I can tell you right now is that $997 to gain access to this kind of knowledge is just really unheard of. It's not being done anywhere in the industry right now. We're doing something that nobody else is doing because we know that we're able to leverage the internet and leverage technology to bring this kind of capability to you like it's never been done before in history. And so this is a once in a lifetime, kind of an offer. Really, it really is. Yeah. And so, this is a place where you can jump on. And so, jump on to https://order.digitalaircraft.org. And that's our ordering site. And you'll see some more information about the program. And jump on, because on September 2nd, when the program starts, it's going to go up to almost $5,000. So we're really glad to have been able to spend time with you today.
Fantastic.
And to be able to present this and to have this webinar and to have so many people from all around the world. Looks like we have 5 continents, on this webinar. And that's been a great thing to have and to be able to reach so far to so many people. And we thank you for your participation. And Larry, I'm going to end this the way I always do, is that I tell people fair winds and following seas to you, and to have a great day. So thanks, Larry. I appreciate you being on the webinar here with me today. And we wish all of you a goodbye. Thank you.